Welcome to the Virtual Ball Boys podcast. My name is Chris, and I am joined once again by my good friend, Matt.
All right, Chris, I have a question for you.
Shoot.
Who is your least favorite character in a video game that you love?
Ooh.
Like a character that you cannot fucking stand, but it's in a game that you adore. I can answer if you need time to think or need an example.
Yeah, hit me with one that you have in mind.
I fucking hate Flowey from Undertale. It is the most, like, pretentious ass shit I have ever seen. I do not think he's written well. And I'm not talking about, like, spoilers for a 7-year-old game. Azrael, great. Flowey fucking sucks. Hate his guts every time he's on screen.
Does it affect your opinion how well written it is? Like, does it make you feel like it a little bit more because of the fact that it is meant to be annoying, meant to be pretentious, meant to make you hate it? No. It doesn't improve it at all.
It's not an enjoyable, like, I love to hate this character.
No, this is just
like
pure fury.
The character itself does not feel pretentious. The way that he's written feels pretentious.
Yeah.
And that's not how I feel with most other Toby Fox characters.
Yeah, I have to think, because I think I have the one character that comes to mind is from Bugsnax, a character named Floofty, I think.
I need to look up a picture of Floofty. I will have no context for what they're like.
Yeah. So essentially, Floofty Fizzlebean is their name. They're the only non-binary character in the game. So it really sucks that they're so unlikable.
Yeah.
But they, essentially they're like a scientist, and so is their, sibling, and they're like feuding because, their brother really thinks that, they are extremely unethical about their science experiments, and he's right about that. And they just have no regard for other people in general, and kind of is totally fine about about like working for the government and like doing experiments on innocent lives and things. Good. So it's just I think overall like their character is funny in a way, but they kind of suck. Yeah. And there's not really a moral, like, they kind of come to like a moral realization at the end of the game, but it doesn't really feel well earned, and so it's not great. I think that's the one that comes to mind. If I think of a better one, I will interrupt whatever conversation we are having, and I'll bring it up.
Just fucking shout their name.
Yeah. Right, absolutely. But I'll keep it in mind. Anyways, welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Virtual Ball Boys podcast. We have been off for another few weeks. We had the draft in that time. We had the big old schedule release in that time. And really not much else. There's some little bits of pieces of news that we'll talk about alongside the big ones, but really those are the two tentpoles of today's episode. And let's just dive right into it, shall we? I want to start with the draft, and talk about that first round, which I think if I were to talk about the first round, it was 1 through 10 chalk. Like, it was not a lot of movement. Everyone kind of chalk.
I heard shock for some reason.
No.
And then you're like, oh, it was really boring. Not a lot happened.
No.
It's like,
No, picks 1 through 10 was very much just what you could have predicted this.
Yeah.
And then 11 through, 20 happened, and all hell broke loose. Probably the most hell broke loose that we've ever seen in the draft. And then I think the rest of the draft was pretty boring. So we'll talk about the first 10 picks, and we'll talk about the crazy stuff. We'll see maybe if there's a stopping point where we're like, all right, this is now boring. We don't have to keep talking about this.
Okay.
We'll start with number 1. With Trayvon Walker goes to the Jaguars. I believe our draft analyst Chet Avery had Trayvon Walker number 1, correct?
If only I had saved the picks that he sent me.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I'm almost certain he did. I think he also had Aiden Hutchinson number 2 to the Detroit Lions, which he got right. The Trayvon Walker pick, I think a lot of people are still like, why did they go with that instead of Aiden Hutchinson? That's my understanding, but who knows? He seems like a decent player, so maybe he'll prove that his number 1 overall pick pedigree. So yes, Aiden Hutchinson goes to the Detroit Lions, hometown kid going to his hometown team, so very nice. The Texans did pick a surprise player. The first cornerback off the list was Derek Stingley Jr. I think a lot of people did not have him being the first.
No.
The one that many people had as the first quarterback off the board went next to the New York Jets at number 4. So Sauce Gardner goes to New York. And then number 5, New York Giants go with Kayvon Thibodeau, defensive end from Oregon.
He's got all the vowels.
He's got all the vowels. I'll stop here and just say, like, this is the dream pick for me. I was so stoked about this. I walked away. The draft overall for the Giants, I don't think was amazing, but specifically to me, like, as long as these top 2 guys work out the way that people seem like they want, we'll talk about the second guy in a second, but if they work out, it's gonna be great. And like Thibodeau would be, it just seems like such a, like, I've listened to him on podcasts. He has such a great personality. He's so funny. Like he just absolutely you know how some NFL players, and this is gonna be a broad stroke, and I don't want to like be mean about it, but they kind of suck the air out of the room a little bit when they do interviews. Like, they kind of just, they're so boring, they're drab, they have no personality, they give, like, answers that, like, it was, like, handed to them as a script from their NFL team that they're part of. This guy just brings the life into the room. He's so funny, and I'm so excited to see him play. He was projected to be, like, a number 1 overall pick back in, like, the fall. Maybe even after the season was over. I think some people still had him number 1 overall. He only fell because of quote unquote personality issues. And that's bullshit. Yeah. Like that whole idea that guys, oh no, he cares about things other than football. We can't draft him now, is absolutely an absurd way of thinking, and I'm so excited that he's there. The Panthers picked next at Icom and Ekwano, I think, like that. Yeah, offensive tackle, and then the next offensive tackle went to the Giants, Evan Neal. Both of those guys were also at one point or another projected to be number 1 overall picks to the Jaguars, but that was before I think the Jags got the franchise tag on Cam Robinson. And that's when the defensive players ended up moving up higher onto the draft board. So, yeah, no, I'm pretty stoked about how the Giants got both Neal and Thibodeau. Very, very happy about that.
Oh, yeah.
Number 8, the first wide receiver went off the board, and I was kind of surprised by this, just because I didn't really think that he was up that high. But Drake London went to the Falcons, so that's going to be your replacement, for at least for this year, for Calvin Ridley. So there's that. Seahawks went Charles Cross, offensive tackle. And then the Jets went with the next wide receiver, Garrett Wilson, which already, like, the Jets, I gotta say, like, they went with they got the best quarterback off the board, and then probably the best wide receiver off the board, even after other people from that position were picked. like, it's wild. It's kind of wild how that ended up working out. Again, that's through like how people rank them in their draft boards, but
Right.
The Jets had what seemed to be a very, very good draft, and they are not done in this round, and we'll get to that a little later. All right, so then the trades began to happen. Washington ended up trading down, and the New Orleans Saints ended up taking over the number 11 spot. Some people were like, maybe this is quarterback. Instead, it was the other Ohio State wide receiver in Chris Olave. Olave. Sorry. Then Detroit Lions, they traded up from all the way at number 32. They went all the way up to number 12 to pick Jameson Williams, wide receiver from Alabama. That was the wide receiver that got injured, I think, in the championship game. Or
yes.
Somewhere in the playoffs at some point. And he was potentially going to be like even higher on this list for wide receivers. So the fact that the Lions are going to get him is probably a good value for them, even though they traded up for it.
Yeah, and I think that for the Lions who are not going to compete this year,
mm-hmm.
they can use him a lot next year and still have a lot of stuff that they can use to draft next year and maybe get some free agents and build up for next year, just not this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Then Philadelphia Eagles got Jordan Davis. I believe this was also a trade up situation. I think that they jumped in front of the Ravens for this pick to get the defensive tackle. And I believe the Texans rather were the ones that traded down just a few picks. Ravens, I guess realizing that they could not get Jordan Davis, decided to go with the best safety in the draft with Kyle Hamilton. Then the Texans got Kenyon Green, offensive guard. And I want to say it was around this point that we found out about another trade. And it was a trade between the Cardinals and the Ravens. The Ravens got the 23rd overall pick for Marquise Brown. And the Cardinals also got a 2022 third round pick from the Ravens as well. They used that to get Myjah Sanders, defensive end. But still, what do you think about this trade? This was kind of surprising to see. I don't ever expect a player trade to happen, and this was only the first one that we got this draft.
Yeah, this was crazy, but I think that going off some news, this definitely was a great move for the Cardinals, considering they will be without DeAndre Hopkins to start the season.
Yes.
And I think it'll be okay for the Ravens as well. The Ravens are this, run first team, and although it's nice to have a good wide receiver still to pass to when needed, they've still got I believe it's Rashad Bateman.
Yes.
Who they drafted in the first round last year.
Mm-hmm.
So they still have him, who can see if he can take a step up. They still got Mark Andrews, right. And this is just a way to solidify themselves for the run stuff. Having a center and having and Lamar, it's going to be a run first team. I think that this is also a good sign that J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards are going to be good to go after their ACL tears to start before the year started last year, which is still just the wildest thing.
Mm-hmm.
That 3 running backs on that team went down with ACL tears. So I think that the Ravens are in the mode to compete, and they don't necessarily need Hollywood. And Hollywood wanted to be on a team where he was going to catch the ball a lot more, and got his wish, and is reunited with his college quarterback.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing that I'm reading into, at least, is I feel like they want to make Kyler Murray happy after an offseason where it felt like he was not very happy. And clearly things seem to have been patched up now. It even feels like Kyler Murray was even doing damage control at times where he was saying no, I'm good with the Cardinals. Never a problem with them. Never. But if you want to make him happy, getting his old college teammate in Marquise Brown is a huge get. For them. Has Hollywood Brown been this amazing wide receiver in the league? Not necessarily, but I think that chemistry, we see how that kind of works with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Maybe that's something that maybe they could spark that chemistry again, and things could really work out for them. That's not necessarily a guarantee, but it's a really it's good that they're at least giving that a shot to see how it works. And like you said, the DeAndre Hopkins suspension is a big role in this, I'm sure, as well, which we'll talk about in a bit. So that was that. Continuing with the draft, the Washington Commanders, I don't think they traded up for this. I think this is where they landed with New Orleans.
Yeah.
They got a wide receiver themselves in Jahan Dotson, wide receiver from Penn State. The Los Angeles Chargers. It's funny, I'm using Wikipedia to look at this draft board. And it's funny just seeing like this complete blank where the Chargers are next. Like there's been no trade ups or anything. The Chargers just chilled where they are, just doing their thing. They got Zion Johnson, offensive guard. Many people were like, this is a Chargers ass pick, but in a good way. People like this pick. And then the fucking roof just got blown off the draft hall, essentially, even though it was outside. When the Philadelphia Eagles traded their first round pick to the Titans, in return, the Eagles got AJ Brown. So AJ Brown gets out of Tennessee. He is now in Philadelphia Eagle. Tennessee also got a third round pick with that. And the Tennessee Titans, they select Treylon Burks, which some in Titan circles felt like actually was just getting another AJ Brown esque player. What is your thoughts on AJ Brown now no longer being a Titan?
Yeah, I think the fact that they drafted someone who's essentially like a carbon copy of him is very funny. Not that he's guaranteed to become how AJ Brown is, but holy shit, is this great for the Eagles?
Mm-hmm.
Like, when depending on when we do division picks, the Eagles are my NFC East division winners, and I don't think it's close. Like, even over the Cowboys, I think this is great. I think that Jalen Hurts is the strangest quarterback in the NFL.
Why do you say that?
Because he's so not good, but so good at the same time.
Okay.
And he manages to get it done.
Yeah.
Especially in a fantasy sense. He is so hard to watch play football, but he produces so well in fantasy.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. Like it's wild. This is great for him. I don't think AJ Brown's going to have as good of a season that he would have with Tannehill, but I think that he's going to bring the Eagles as a whole up.
Yeah. I think that it's huge for the Eagles. I think it's really interesting, the whole thing, because this whole trend that has been happening this offseason with wide receivers, and how it seems like every single wide receiver superstar has some way forced themselves out of their teams to go somewhere else. We can maybe blame Christian Kirk for that. But it's wild because I think for a few years now, people have been talking about the idea of you have to win while you have a quarterback on rookie contract while he's cheap, so that way you can use the rest of your money on your roster to build up everything else and get yourself into a title contention. I feel like that's gonna have to be the case for wide receivers soon, because you look at what the demand is now for wide receivers, and again, like, it's like Kirk broke the market, but like even still, it's been trending in that direction where wide receivers are just being paid an exorbitant amount of money, and now you don't want to be. At least the franchises are probably going to start thinking like, well, now maybe we need to play on a rookie. We need to have these guys play on a rookie contract, and if we are not a franchise that wants to spend that money further and wants to really invest in them going forward, we'll just trade him and then get another wide receiver. I mean, maybe part of what happened this year was that this was such a deep class for wide receivers that it was easy to pick one in the draft. But,
yeah, teams were more willing to part.
Yeah. And so it is wild, though. It is wild that we've seen this much movement in the wide receiver market, and I love it. It's chaos all the way. It's been a lot of fun. And then Trevor Penning went to the New Orleans Saints in the 19th pick, and then the only quarterback taken, I think, in the first 2 rounds, was Kenny Pickett to the Pittsburgh Steelers. What's your thoughts on this quarterback get for Pittsburgh?
I mean, this is a bit of a Jordan Love situation, right? Because he's going to be backing up Mitch Trubisky, the GOAT.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, for years. He's got to get traded away. Mitch Trubisky is going to be the heart and soul of Pittsburgh.
No, I mean, I think it's a good pick. I think that this makes sense for both, like, Pickett to go here and for the Steelers. They need some competition, and offensive line. But other than that, they don't need a ton of help to, like, much where else.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, like, hey, Mitch is going to be this bridge. Let's get our guy now, and we'll worry about offensive line later. I think that's the Steelers' kind of priority. I think it'll work out.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm fascinated by the Steelers this year. Like, I'm actually like, Big Ben was a big reason why I fucking hated the Steelers.
Correct. Agreed.
And so the fact that he's gone makes me like the Steelers exponentially more, and makes me more interested in seeing how they perform. And also the fact that, like, a team that we will not name right now, I don't know why, I just don't feel like talking about them, that is in their division, that was this heartthrob, that was this team that we wanted to root for and wanted to see succeed, is now going down the shit can. It's fun to bounce to the other side of that rivalry for once, and now root for this Pittsburgh Steelers team, which is not really an underdog because they do have 6 championships, but is going...
And did make the playoffs last year.
Yes, but they're going through it feels like they're going through a weird transition period that they haven't been in decades. And, like, it's kind of, I don't know, it just makes me more interested in them as a franchise, and this is why I always root for in teams. It's just, make things interesting for once. You're boring if you're too successful or too shitty. Start going back and forth a little bit. It's more fun. So yeah, very interested in the pick. I think the rest of the way, there wasn't really a whole lot of interesting picks. The Jets did end up trading back into the first round to pick up Jermaine Johnson II, who fell in this draft. And he was a highly regarded defensive end. And
the Packers did not draft a wide receiver.
I was just about to go that route. Yeah, they did draft a first-round wide receiver. They picked a linebacker in Quay Walker and a defensive tackle in Devontae Wyatt. So we had at least 24 hours where we were just like, they're playing to the beam. It's great. But then almost immediately in the second round, they traded up and got a wide receiver in Christian Watson. Still, though, very weird that they still are not addressing the wide receiver position extremely well, but hey, who knows? Maybe they know something better than us. Who fucking knows? That's the thing. Like, I want to, like, it would be fun to go through this draft further. You know, like Kenneth Walker III going to the Seahawks, like the one of the more highly touted running backs last year.
Yeah.
It would be fun to go through all of them, but it's like, we don't know if any of them are really going to hit, and so it's fine. I think that's the first round in a nutshell. It kind of went out with a whimper. Nothing super interesting happened. And speaking of the things that were not interesting, the big quarterback names that we've had out this entire offseason that have not been traded in Jimmy Garoppolo and Baker Mayfield, neither of them have been traded. So
neither of them been traded, and the spots where they could be traded, like, drafted a quarterback.
Right. Yeah.
Like Matt Corral to the Panthers.
Yeah. Well, Seahawks didn't draft a quarterback.
That's true.
And that's I think maybe the one place where I'm like,
that's where, like, if Baker doesn't go there, I don't know what's happening.
Right. Yeah, I don't understand what's going on with Seahawks at all. The fact that they drafted a running back and an offensive tackle in their early picks is just like, all right, they're just really obsessed with running. They just really like running the ball. It works. They really like
running the ball.
But it works kind of, but it's just, I don't know. But yeah, there you go. Very, very fun. The draft was chaotic. It was a good time, good first round. I would say the second and third round were only really interesting just to see what other scraps were picked up. I guess, yeah, that's true. Going over some of the quarterbacks that were drafted, like Desmond Ridder went to the Falcons. The Malik Willis ended up going to the Titans, which that's interesting.
It's also interesting with how curmudgeon-y Tannehill was being about it.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. That ended up, starting a whole fucking conversation online about, like, oh, should Brian Tannehill's job be to train the quarterback? And it's like, no, it doesn't have to be that.
No.
I don't think that he should treat Malik Willis like a dick, but I also understand, like, it's not necessarily his job to get Malik Willis ready. It's the coach's job to get Malik Willis ready. So
right.
It's a weird one. And yes, like you mentioned earlier, Matt Corral went to the Panthers. That was really it for like the interesting quarterbacks. Like Sam Howell was in like quarterback conversations. He landed with the Washington Commanders. Oh, we also learned about Sam Howell's diet. And how he only eats chicken and nothing else.
That's the only meat that he eats.
Yeah, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, so he has a diet of a 9-year-old." It's just like, okay, I was sent this tweet by Matt being like, "Oh, hey, look, it's you," but I was quick to retort.
It's your self. I said
it was like
found your NFL self insert.
Right, but I was quick to retort and say, "Wait a minute." I love seafood more than my own family, alright? So that is a key difference there. And I also had a pork chop for dinner, so I'm a mess here.
There you go.
So anyways, that's it. That's the gist of the draft. Alright. How much time has passed? Well, let's fit in a news story before we go to break here. Okay. So we had a few signings. Few interesting signings. We're going to start with the Saints. They got 2 signings that I love for this team. Saints got both safety, Tyrann Mathieu, and wide receiver, Jarvis Landry. Both of these guys are LSU guys, but more importantly, Tyrann Mathieu is at his best no matter where he goes, and Jarvis Landry, of course, is always a fun wide receiver to watch. For a Saints team that's kind of in like the mud right now, it makes them more interesting, Matt.
Okay, so if like you say the Saints are in the mud, if Michael Thomas comes back, and obviously not going to be like as good as he was maybe before the injury, but if he comes back and he's solid, and Alvin Kamara doesn't have legal bullshit going on because remember he got arrested.
That's true. Forgot about that.
Like I feel like there's a chance for the Saints.
Yeah,
maybe even to win the division over the Buccaneers. I think the Saints are really solid, and if Jameis plays okay, then
sure,
I can see a path.
Yeah, there's definitely not as like brutal of a roster as you want to make them out to be. I find it hard to believe that they're going to be better than the Bucs, but I don't know. I guess weirder things have happened. It's just I enjoy when guys that have always been fun to watch go to new teams because it makes those teams more fun to watch. And I feel like last year was like it was obviously a down year for the Saints, and they still had some of their talent, and they still had games where they destroyed Tom Brady, which is very funny. Which is probably why you're saying that they could beat the Bucs. Maybe they could, but I don't know. Like this feels like a situation where they're going to go there, and they're going to make this team at least a little bit more interesting, and it'll put them in good position maybe for a wild card berth. And then we'll see where the chips may fall from there. Then we had another defensive and offensive signing, this time with the Dolphins. They got defensive end Melvin Ingram and running back Sony Michel. Now, Sony Michel kind of like completely dropped out of relevance near the end of the year, especially with Cam Akers with making his return to the team in Los Angeles. Melvin Ingram, he was the longtime Charger who then bounced around with he was with the Steelers, and then he was with the Chiefs near the end of the year. I think was in the playoff games as well with the Chiefs. So two veteran players, and I gotta just say, like, if I could pull up the Dolphins roster real quick, the Dolphins are, Mike McDaniel is the head coach right now. He is, of course, from San Francisco, and what they did in San Francisco is get a shit ton of running backs. And right now, the Dolphins have Chase Edmonds, Myles Gaskin, Sony Michel, Raheem Mostert, and I think they drafted someone. No, it doesn't look like it. But still, that's a lot of running backs, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, that's just you gotta get the running backs.
Yeah. They'll have a lot of running support there, with Tua coming through. Maybe they're gonna run the ball a shit ton and then have just Tua be more of a game manager type situation. But we'll see. But I'm enjoying the fact that they are going after so many running backs and basically becoming 49ers East or South. I guess both East, Southeast.
Both is good.
Anyways, we'll be back. We'll have more news, and we'll talk about the schedule release right after these messages. It has been 2 years since we started Team Chaos Productions, and we would not be where we are today without the help of Anchor. You've heard us talk about it all the time, but let me remind you, this completely free platform gives creators the tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast from your computer or phone. Once done, Anchor will distribute your podcast to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more so you don't have to. You can also make some money on the episodes with no minimum listenership. It's everything you'd ever want in a podcasting platform, so download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Happy podcasting.
Sick of talking about video games with people who just want to be toxic? Me too. So join us over at the Gaming Coop. We come together each month to talk about what we love about video games. Discussion topics range from our favorite soundtracks to the best relationships between characters. We also have some fun segments in which we play some trivia or build our school of gaming. Find us on Anchor or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Game on!
And we're back. Let's continue with the news here. As we mentioned earlier, DeAndre Hopkins was suspended for 6 games for a PED violation. And Matt, what always happens with these is that the player is like, I don't know how that happened. I keep track of everything that I eat, which, let's be real, they probably don't. That's a lot to keep track of. And I didn't realize I would have consumed anything, but they supposedly the NFL found something in their random drug testing, and so they suspended the Cardinals' best wide receiver in Hopkins, just from, like, I know you said earlier, like, that the Marquise Brown trade is at least going to help them alleviate some of the some of what they're going to lose with Hopkins' suspension. But do you think that this is going to, like, hurt the Cardinals still in this 6-game stretch, or is it that, do you think that they're going to end up being fine?
Oh, it's going to hurt them for sure. Because rather than having both Hopkins and Hollywood, now you just got Hollywood. It's going to be harder for them. Cardinals are just such a weird team because they start off so good and then they get shit.
Right.
And it seems to be a really common trend for them for so long. And I hope that they can be good, but I don't think they will. as much as they could have been with Hopkins, and they're in a tough division, so it's just it's not going to be super pretty.
Yeah, I wonder. I wonder if this is some reverse psychology that they're going to start working with here. They're going to lose Hopkins for 6 games, so what if they just start the season really bad and then work their way up so that way they end the season all fucking, like, it's like all hell's blazing, just all hell's broken loose. They're kicking ass, they're taking names, they're destroying everyone, and that's they go reverse Cardinal on us.
I don't think that's possible with Cliff Kingsbury.
That's just not how
I just don't think he runs teams that way.
Yeah. Don't you think that at some point, I mean, I know this has been a trend since his college years, but don't you think at some point someone just goes over to Cliff and is just like, hey bud, maybe keep your best stuff for like later in the year? Like, just keep...
Or maybe just like keep the good game plan and don't like change it, which he kind of does.
That's true too. Yeah.
So we gotta adapt to what you're dominating everything.
Yeah, bizarre. It's such a bizarre team. It's almost fun to watch them, but almost not fun to watch them at the same time, because it's just like you want them to succeed, and yet they become such a trash fire near the end of the year. It's not great. Other trades to talk about, some like lower tier trades. The one that I think piqued my interest was that Bryan Edwards went to the Falcons. I for some reason I remember him being an impact player down the stretch, especially with Henry Ruggs being no longer with the Raiders.
he had some like stuff here and there. It's funny though, with him gone, the first 5 picks of the Raiders 2020 draft are now not on the team.
That's wild.
And that also very Raiders.
It's very
Raiders thing to happen. Yeah.
Speaking of the Raiders, they acquired Jarrett Stidham for the Patriots rather. So that ended that experiment, as if that needed to be still an experiment with Mac Jones there. And then finally Lonnie Johnson, cornerback. I remember him being drafted. He was traded to the Kansas City Chiefs. The real quick on the Raiders, because I don't have it on my lineup here, and I should have, because it's not funny at all, because it's actually a very serious thing, but it's just like, I don't know, just adds to like how absurd things have been with the Raiders, as good of a team as they've been kind of in the last year or so. Like, they randomly, it felt like, fired their team president, who they later said was actually just an interim president, even though the guy says otherwise. And then the guy comes out and says, actually, yes, I was a permanent member of the team, and the reason I was fired is because I was trying to bring allegations of like shitty workplace environment up to the owners and got fired. And it's like, Jesus Christ. And so now the Raiders are looking for a new president, but they're also like dealing with serious shit right now. And it just adds to like, you throw that in with the Washington football team, or Washington Commanders. I hate that name. Like that whole bullshit that's going on too, that's probably on another stratosphere, honestly, than what the Raiders are dealing with potentially. But good fucking lord, our NFL team's complete disaster, dumpster fires. And I'm high on the Raiders for this season. Like, I think they could be pretty good, like more like better than they are maybe projected to be, given the tough division. But what's happening in their office is not that great. Speaking of the NFL just being the NFL, NFL finds no evidence of Browns incentivizing Hugh Jackson to tank. This was kind of expected, because Hugh Jackson just kind of threw it out there as if it was like he was just trying to do like a throw the bomb in and then run away. Like it was such a weird allegation, because it felt like he was trying to like go along with what, Brian Flores and the lawsuit that's going on with that. But he never signed up for that lawsuit. He never signed on as a plaintiff, and he instead chose to throw this allegation out there. And I honestly, like, when the NFL says find no evidence of Browns incentivizing Jackson, like, they probably did, but the NFL just doesn't want to really deal with it, so they're just not going to investigate further or hand down more punishment, you know? Like, that's how I see it anyway. And then, finally, in the news, Drew Brees was let go at NBC, according to the New York Post. They did not, I guess they just did not like his job as a color commentator, which that was the consensus of the public as well. But then Drew Brees took to Twitter.
He pulled a Brady. I may come back to football.
Yeah. Oh, yes. So this is why yeah. So he says, despite speculation from media about my future this fall, I'm currently undecided. I may work for NBC, and I'm just gonna stop here and say, no, you got let go by NBC. But anyways, I may play football again. I may focus on business and philanthropy. I may train for the pickleball tour, senior golf tour, coach my kids, or all of the above. I'll let you know. Like,
hey, I have a movie for you, Drew.
Oh boy. Yeah. That was a time. So I think, and there is a lot of like Dennis Allen. Not is that's the coach's name, right, for the Saints. He's so milquetoast. I don't give a shit. He came out and was like, "Oh, I think Drew Brees said that in jest." And like, okay, sure, maybe if you want to really read into it, maybe it was a sarcastic remark, but it doesn't really feel like it. And he also hasn't really gone out of his way to like further debunk the idea of him returning to football. So if he does, that's going to be an interesting name to throw into the mix of like other quarterbacks that also exist in the league still, that also need to find homes potentially. What a weird man this guy is. Drew Brees has had such a, like, he's a great quarterback, but he's had some weird things happen to him and things that he's done on his own to cause him to get headlines.
Incredibly.
Yes. So there's that. I forgot to write down the other big thing that happened. Tom Brady is joining Fox as their number one color commentator. So he's going to be working alongside Kevin Burkhardt the moment he retires. So that's not this year, but that's going to be potentially
and it's not,
2023.
It's also not next year, like guaranteed.
Yeah. No. It's but the weird thing is that like he signs on for this and then they announce it in a weird corporate business call. Like, I don't know, like it's like, if he's so gung-ho about wanting to still play football, why even sign on to this possibility? Because that means is Fox willing? First of all, they're giving him holy shit money, like $375 million, like it's something insane like that, to be their number one color commentator, which we also don't know if he's good at, by the way. Right. We're just assuming. But like, they're so gung-ho about this that they're gonna keep his seat warm, probably with Greg Olsen, who I feel bad for, because now he's like, he was legitimately good last year, and
Greg Olsen's gonna do a great job.
Yeah, and he's going to be like, he's gonna be forced to be in like the second role, the second, which again not necessarily a bad thing, but like, Jesus Christ, y'all just want Tom Brady to be on our TV screens, and like, we don't even know if he's good at this. He may be. I'm not saying he won't. Like, I'm not saying like he definitely won't, but like,
Tom Brady has like more charisma in front of a camera and the ability to speak sentences, like pre-written sentences, without sounding insane. So
yeah,
he like he'll do better than the Mannings.
Yeah, it's weird because I feel like there's people out there who are saying the opposite, and I'm like, I think you're remembering his time with the Patriots. Like, he had to be robotic because I think that's what the organization wanted him to be. But since he's moved to the Buccaneers, he's had more of a personality. He's shown that he's kind of like, there is a human being in there, right? Like, so I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and think like, oh, he's gonna be terrible at it. But it's just the fact that the Fox is forking over that much money, paying him more than like Romo and them, just to be like, yes, we're locking him in. Maybe he's just doing it because the money's there, and that's probably a very strong possibility.
Good, always the money.
Good fucking lord. This league never ceases to excite me in just the most bizarre ways. All right. Anyways, let's move to our final thing for today, and that is the schedule release. So the schedule release is always a fun time. We usually had done in the past schedule predictions. We just didn't get to it this year, but we are going to talk about the things that just like I'll talk about like the highlights of it, and we'll maybe we can bring up a few games that we're looking forward to. But I want to start here. The thing about the NFL schedule is it's just like everything with the NFL. It's become a spectacle.
Yep.
And there's a lot of these like become they end up networks end up airing shows, talking about it, breaking it down, and all that stuff. But I think the most that the hard truth of it is that people don't really care about watching the NFL schedule on TV. That people actually have come out with ratings for the two networks that really were covering it, and those ratings were not very good. They're not at the NFL draft levels, at the at the other the off-season spectacles levels. But where they are getting engagement is through Twitter, and these NFL team accounts, these social media accounts, have been working their butts off every year to pull off some crazy videos to reveal the NFL schedule. And I think this is the best year yet. These teams are getting better and better. Are there still some shitty ones? Absolutely. Are there some teams that are just not participating at all? Absolutely. But there are a few highlights, and me and Matt, we took the time before the podcast to watch some of these, or I watched all of them. Did you end up watching all of them that was on
I watched most of them, but towards the end when it was like, okay, this is another Office parody.
Right, yeah, no, it ended up being... I stopped. Yeah, there was near the end of the article that I sent, it was just a lot of like, okay, like a lot of just mediocre ones. I think a lot of the better ones were near the top of that article. But yeah, Matt, you wanted to start with what I say as well is truly the best of the best.
Oh no, I want to end with the best.
Oh, you want? Oh, all right.
I want to end with the best.
All right. Well,
I want to start with my dishonorable mention, the least funny.
Oh, good. Sounds
the
good.
least funny one that like felt like they made an attempt, and that was the Giants. I did not enjoy that one whatsoever.
A lot of the ones that involved like humans in general, like that.
real people not doing really anything funny. Because like the Buccaneers, for example, that was a real person, but that had character. That had personality to it.
Yeah. I like Tristan Wirfs a lot. He did the whole schedule release. But Eli is not. I think there's this obsession with the Mannings that you and I have agreed that we just don't get. We don't understand the need to have them in our lives on a consistent basis. And once again, it is like the Giants are hanging on to Eli and just want to shove him everywhere. And it was not funny in any way, shape, or form. I would say the Broncos one was a little bit better. Russell Wilson, though, every single time I hear his voice, all I think about is that one social media video that he posted once.
Unlimited.
Oh my god! That's all I was hearing while listening to him speak. It was any moment I was like waiting for him to be like unlimited. And I was just like, oh my god, fucking. There is one team. I feel like I didn't even show up in the article. I think that did like postcards or something. And one of them was the Broncos, and they had a picture of Russell Wilson and a bunch of corn around him. like because he's corny, which I think was very good. But the Broncos were definitely like among the least honorable ones as well. But the Giants, like the Steelers did something with the office stuff. Like there's the Chiefs just had some guy as like a fake intern deliver the schedule to Andy Reid, and Andy Reid just started reading it.
He just read it.
It was just like, okay, sure, this is not all that great.
Fine.
So there was not a lot, but there was a few that stood out. I'll start with one of my favorites, and I don't like giving them credit. I'm at the point where you are, where you hate this team, and I do too. And I hate that he was kind of involved with the audio, with the video as well, Mr. Aaron Rodgers. But the Packers did a fucking excellent schedule release video.
Yes,
it was this arcade golf game that they were kind of going from mini golf course to mini golf course, and they were all at different locations that were resembling either the mascot or the actual location that they were heading to for each of their schedules. It was fantastic. Even at the end, like the way they list the schedule kind of looked like a score bug at the end of a arcade game. It was just very well done, very well animated. I enjoyed it very much. What about you? I like that one. What was another one?
I'm gonna go with the Panthers. They had a very 90s thing going on. It was a little long, but it was just like blasting like 90s nostalgia, like what you do coming home from school. Like you turn on a video game, you get Dunkaroos from your mom, like. Lots of cool stuff, and the way they integrated all the schedule stuff was really cool as well. I really enjoyed the Panthers. That was actually I hadn't watched many before today, and Panthers was one of the ones that I did watch, and I was like, okay, that's really sick. That's really good.
Yeah, they had like the Tamagotchi at one point. They had
that was good.
The food delivery truck come in with Thomas Davis on the truck in the truck.
Yeah.
Like that was. Yeah, all of it was just really, it was just super well done. I enjoyed that. The other one I liked, and I was kind of surprised that by the end of when I reached the bottom, I was like that it was among the best, but I think it legitimately was the Jets, the out of context Jets, which I think legitimately was the funniest of the bunch, because all it was them doing silly animations to the mic'd up segments that you hear on NFL films or NFL media, of like, I guess it was like last year's audio and some of the things that they were saying. But it was just all these like stick figure characters that are just screaming these lines, especially, and also like some audio from broadcasters as well, and just very funny animations. The one that killed. Oh, go ahead.
They had through lines too.
Oh yeah.
Like it wasn't just one and done. Like they had multiple things for one thing.
Yeah, no, they it was fantastic. I think the one that killed me the most was at the end when they were like going to Miami, and it was the solar panel talking to the sun, and like they're like, "I'm gonna need you today. I'm gonna need you." It was just so ridiculous and so silly. I was just like, all right, no, this is a very good one. I really enjoyed this one. What else do you have?
I gotta talk about the Bills.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I
did not know where they were going with this at all.
No, and even like Josh Allen came out at the end, like it would have been the best one if Josh Allen did not explain that this didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And I almost didn't talk about it, but then the very end, when they actually had the schedule like come on screen, they played like some sort of like church song.
Huh.
Oh wait, the song that's playing like when the schedule is on screen is Away in the Manger. Which instantly bumped it back up for absurdity. So
I think it to me, it reminded me of them making fun of all the ridiculous schedule videos, and just being like, we're just gonna throw a bunch of shit together, a bunch of random stuff.
This dude just comes in the background, like puts his hand in cake as Dawson Knox is very messily eating wings at the front. All the shit's going on, and then Josh Allen's just introduced as Football Man.
I forgot about that.
Which was amazing.
So good. Just absolutely wild. I love self-aware humor.
Yes.
I think it's one of my favorite types of humor, and I love that Buffalo just doubled down on that. And another like low key one that I really liked was the Falcons. They didn't do the thing where they're necessarily introducing like the schedule in order. They ended up just showing the order at the end, but they still incorporated the teams that they were playing throughout. And what it was something that which I enjoy watching. I find very soothing. I know you do too, Matt. Marbles and how
Rube Goldberg stuff.
Yeah, where you kind of move where it's kind of like this domino effect where like you just push a marble or push like a domino and like a bunch of chain reaction stuff happens. And oh my god, so well done. I'm always super impressed with those, and so I'm just a sucker for that, and I think they did a really, really good job introducing, and they had like a Panthers drum where like something fell through there. They had like a little tiny bus that had the 49ers logo on it go through. The Saints, they had like the marble go down like the S. It was just super well done. It's very short video too. I will give points to teams that keep their video short, because good lord, fucking
90 seconds max. That's all we need.
The Saints had like a 7-minute video of
I did not watch it,
doing like Pictionary for their schedule. I was just like, I don't have time for this. I don't need to watch this. But hands down, and the one that kind of blew up Twitter when it was announced, it even entered gaming Twitter because there's a lot of anime fans that I follow, was the Chargers schedule release.
So the Los Angeles Chargers, if you haven't watched it yet, stop this podcast, search Chargers schedule release. Welcome back. It is they made an anime opening to their schedule and literally referenced a bunch of anime. There's fucking One Piece. The Jaguars looked like a Beastars reference. The bye week was Avatar. Like, they went all out, and the way that they like portrayed all the players with all these like scenic anime shots that you find in every fucking OP ever. And then I died at the end with Justin Herbert growing up.
Yes.
That is so fucking something that they would put in an anime intro. It was perfect. It was well animated. The fucking mechs with Staley versus Reed inside of them and Staley hitting the go for it button. Just like, again, complete self-awareness of who they are as a team and what people expect out of the Chargers, but also like playing into all these anime tropes. It was perfection. They did exactly what they set out to do.
It was incredible, man. And I like it. First of all, they're now my Super Bowl favorite. I want them to win it. Like, yes. I want them to win it all, because this video isn't worth it if they can't win it all. Like, that's what it is. Like, it has to be that they do it, that they make it there. Just so incredible. The one that killed me was when they cut to the Browns and they were like, we can't, the lawyers told us to take us down.
Yes.
Because it's not be good for us. Which actually happened, I feel like, a few times. And also the Jaguars filming, it was the Jaguars one was him being filmed in the bar, which was a reference to Urban Meyer being caught dancing with someone.
Oh, fuck. I didn't realize that.
Oh my god, Matt. They references that they pulled for this were so on the edge of not being like, NFL teams shouldn't be doing this, but I'm so happy they did.
Yeah.
It's so good, the references. And yeah, like, animation was fucking phenomenal. There's probably articles on it too. Like, it was that much of like a social media moment. Like that. It was top tier, one of the best, if it was the best schedule video I think we've ever seen.
And like, I hope that it sets the standard for teams in the future.
100%.
And like, people are gonna try to one up it, and some may succeed, but most are gonna fail so badly because they're not gonna get what made that so good.
Next year, Giants are just going to do a schedule release where all the characters are Eli. Like, they're just going to take Eli's face and just put them on all the faces in that Chargers video and then just release it as their own schedule. Because they're just not creative and they just are obsessed with Eli Manning.
They took Eli from the Chargers, to be fair.
There you go. So they might as well take the video as well. I really am hopeful. Like, this is, I hope that all their NFL teams see this and hire animators. Get animators in your fucking building and work for you, because this is the magic that they can fucking pull off. It's amazing. Yeah, really, really great job by the Chargers. So real quick before we end the podcast, let's go over some things for the schedule. I was going to highlight 4 categories of game. We're going to start with week 1. We just go through week 1 because that's the game we're going to be talking about the most over the course of the next few months. It'll start on Thursday night with Bills at Rams. I did think they would do it, Matt. I was kind of skeptical because I thought that the Bills were maybe they wouldn't want to really put the Bills on a big stage like this right out of the gate. But I'm so happy. I'm so excited for this game.
Yeah, me too. Like, last year's Super Bowl winner and next year's Super Bowl winner facing off.
There you go. Oh, that's right. The Bills and Chargers are in the same conference. Fuck me.
Yeah, I know it's. Why does the NFC suck ass?
Yeah, it's not.
And why
great.
is this the opposite of the conversation we had like 5 years ago?
It's wild. It's wild. Then going through some of the early games: Saints at Falcons, Browns at Panthers, Niners at Bears. What do you think about that for your opening for the Bears?
I think it's fine.
That's not great.
It's fine. No opponent for the Bears would have been great. So
yeah, there you go. The Steelers
maybe
at
the Texans.
Yeah. Steelers at Bengals, Eagles at Lions, Colts at Texans, Patriots at Dolphins, Ravens at Jets, Jaguars at Commanders. So really, to me, a very boring 1 p.m. slate.
Yeah.
Not big fan of that, but I do think they make up for it in other places. The late slate: Giants at Titans, Chiefs at Cardinals, Raiders at Chargers.
Fucking tie.
Yes. Packers,
make it a tie.
Packers
Please.
At Vikings. I really love this late slate because I feel like Chiefs and Cardinals could be, if the Cardinals do what they do and play really well and early on, this could be a fun game to watch. Packers and Vikings is a fun divisional game, and of course Raiders at Chargers coming right off of what was one of the greatest NFL games ever in terms of tie gate.
If legitimately, if they tied, it's the greatest NFL game of all time.
Right. Yeah. It would have been absolutely incredible. And then the primetime game, Buccaneers at Cowboys. That looks good. But then Monday Night Football, the debut of Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on ESPN, but also the debut of Russell Wilson as a Bronco going back to Seattle to face the Seahawks. This is perfect.
Yes.
They could not have scripted this better. So yeah, I think it's a great week 1. Like I said, at 1 p.m. I do think is a little bit of a dud, but I think the 4 p.m. has a lot to deliver. I think Sunday Night Football is gonna be good, but I think the crown, the great games are really gonna be Thursday Night Football and Sunday Night Football, or Monday Night Football, I should say, because those are just gonna be fantastic. Then we had some international games announced in last week. Week 4 we'll have the Vikings at Saints in London. Same with the Giants at the Packers. And then the Broncos. That would be week 5 for the Giants and Packers, and then week 8 is the Broncos at Jaguars in London as well. So good news, Packers don't get all their home games. Granted, it's still going to be 8 home games for them. They just
take that Lambeau.
They just don't get the 9th home game that they would be.
God, can you imagine the fucking outrage if they only got 7 home games?
Oh God,
those Lambeau season ticket holders
would not be pretty. Jaguars are getting 7 home games, but they're used.
Well, that's usual for them.
Yeah, they're used to that. Then in week 10, the Seahawks at the Buccaneers, but obviously not at Tampa Bay. It is in Germany, Munich, Germany, to say the least. That's going to be a lot of fun, very interesting. Well, I don't know about the Seahawks playing, but it's going to be an interesting environment to see NFL in Germany again. And then week 11, the 49ers at the Cardinals in Mexico City. So return to Mexico City, which I think Estadio Azteca is one of the most intimidating stadiums I've ever seen. It's so fucking tall. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It is huge.
Oh,
but it's
great.
great.
Was it a Shakira concert last time? That they were going to play in Mexico?
I think the COVID still played a role in the fact that they couldn't do it, but I think the big thing was the weather was bad down there in 2019. I want to say.
I remember there being a concert before the Rams Chiefs game, and the field was fucking horrible.
You're probably right. It probably was a concert. But yes, and that's what led to that Rams Chiefs game going to LA, and then that ended up becoming one of the greatest NFL games to ever be played. And Mexico, unfortunately, had to miss out on that. But they get a game again with the 49ers and Cardinals ready to go. Now, last few things I want to highlight. Thanksgiving. Bills at Lions. Bills.
Fuck yeah, I get to watch the Bills.
Yeah, again, it's become a normal thing for them to be playing on Thanksgiving, which I don't know how Bills players probably feel about that, but you know what?
Yeah.
That's just how it goes. The Giants at Cowboys. Of course, they would force me to watch this game on
This is like the first time the Giants have been on Thanksgiving in a really long time, though. So
yes, I appreciate that it's new on that front. I just don't. I just hate I just have a burning hatred for the fact that they always force Giants and Cowboys as a primetime game, because I believe the other game is a primetime game for the Cowboys and Giants. So I'm just like,
well, at least this one's not technically primetime, but it is Thanksgiving, so it does kind of count.
It's their highest rated NFL game all year. So it's like it's not that great. But then at 8:00, the Patriots at Vikings, which is a very interesting choice. But I feel like I would have said the same thing about the Saints and the Bills last year around this time. So they just choose very interesting games for this 8:00 slot on NBC. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But then we're now starting to get a replica of Thanksgiving for Christmas. And it's basically the same networks. On Fox, it will be Packers at Dolphins, and then Broncos at Rams at 4:30. That will be on Nickelodeon also.
Oh, of course.
And then the 8:00 game, Buccaneers at the Cardinals.
That'll be pretty good.
Yeah, fun slate of games on Christmas Day. They moved the rest of the slate to Saturday on Christmas Eve, intruding on college football and NBA. That's what the NFL does, and they'll win it. They will
always win.
Yeah, they will always succeed. Unfortunately,
I did see something how like 5 of the most 5 of the things that you would expect the most, or 5 of the NBA teams that you would expect to be featured on Christmas are also the NFL teams.
Yeah. It would be the Bucks and the Heat would be playing probably on Christmas.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Suns.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not great, but hey, that's again, the NFL, if they could get some money grabbing situation going on, they're gonna freaking take it. And we'll see for sure, because if they make a shit ton of money and ratings through that, forget it. It's NFL's gonna take over Christmas too, and it's gonna be to the detriment of the NBA. But there you go. That is our podcast. So what's next for us? I know, Matt, you're wrapping up everything that's happening in your life right now. You're wrapping up life.
Yeah.
That sounds really dark. I don't mean it to be. But I currently am in transition with my stuff that's going on. So ideally, in a couple of weeks, we're gonna maybe start doing the VBBFL again. We'll start booting that back up. And then we'll start, we're gonna, again, I don't know if we actually have said this on the podcast yet, but I think the future for VBFL is really, we want to start making it more of an off-season thing where we actually start playing the games in the off-season as well, just to kind of make things a little bit easier during the regular season of the NFL, because that's a lot going on during that time period. So we'll kind of figure out what our future plans are for VFL. Probably closer to when the season, the NFL season is about to start. And meanwhile, we're going to try to get done with our last... We have one regular season week, and I think we have, like, the playoffs to go through at this point.
Pretty much, yep.
Yeah, I think that's where we're up to right now. So we'll see how that goes. And, of course, stay tuned. We have the Gaming Coop, which the next episode will come out later this month. We had a new episode come out at the end of April. And, of course, we have Table Party and Doc of Shame for your listening enjoyment as
Whenever
well.
the fuck they come out, man, I've had a time recently.
It's been a year for you guys. It's been a year. It's been
both of us have moved.
Yeah.
So like, shit's crazy.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and so you guys will come back to it when you feel comfortable to come back to it. But if you have been falling behind on any of those episodes, now's your time to catch up, because we have Table Parties. We've had such a great campaign with humanity. We're excited to come back to it. But if you have missed any episodes, please go back to it. And of course, Doc of Shame. We are on the cusp of recording our finale episode at some point.
Oh yeah.
So this is, or at least our season 1 finale, I should say.
Yes.
And so it's really exciting stuff. So catch up while you can. And of course, thank you all so much for listening to Virtual Ball Boys and being patient with us as we have taken a little bit more of a slower output overall for this off season, but it's just been better for my mental health, at least. It's not having to worry about this as much.
Yeah.
But I promise you, we will get to the important things that we have left on our agenda for VUBFL and everything else regarding VUB. We're still waiting for that the John Boyce.
Oh my God, John!
Piece.
Come on.
So that's the other thing that we're kind of waiting for in terms of off-season stuff. So we'll
John,
see.
you make amazing things. Please go watch the Seattle Mariners and Atlanta Falcons documentaries.
Oh yeah. He does great work.
They are incredible, but also please, I need my sci-fi speculative fiction.
He is
I need it.
Also an underrated tweeter.
Oh, yeah, yes. If you do not follow John Boyce on Twitter, I call him like the most aggressively normal tweeter you will ever find.
He's phenomenal. He's just
he will tweet, "Just ate some lunch," but turn off replies.
Fucking love it, man. Love it so much. Anyways, yeah, that's all in the wings waiting for us. But yes, please go follow John Boyce. We will be back at some point soon, but until then, thank you all again so much for listening, and we will see you in a few weeks.
Good night and good ball. Virtual Ball Boys has been brought to you by Team Chaos Productions. Find us on Twitter at Virtual Ball Boys and find more of our work at Team Chaos Pods.